Memphis. But you could have started that game at 10 tonight because that's 8 local, which isn't that bad. Like that's a normal start time for games at
Yeah.
times. And we had like Hornets Pacers tonight at 7. And like obviously the fallacy here is that we're assuming the NBA wants a lot of people to see what this Hornets Pacers game is going to be. And I simply do not think that's true. I don't think that was true before the Pacers decided that they were going to send like an Indianapolis area men's league team to an NBA playoff game. But now it's like doubly true. Like I don't think the NBA, if the NBA could get away with not putting their like logo and letterhead on this game, they might try to. They
Well,
might.
what I was wondering is what would have Indiana done in this scenario if they ended up in the 8th spot and they have to play 2 games, because they clearly don't even want to play one, like they want to just get out of here. But would they have tanked 2 straight play-in games?
See, that's the beauty of it. Like I don't see, and if you've decided you don't want to play any of these, I don't see a negative to a second game. Like you get one more game of basically playoff game revenue. Although I don't know I don't know how the ratings factor into that, but I'm assuming like the team money is set once you're in this game. And then you also get your lottery pick because the Pacers are not going to be winning either of those 2 games.
Yeah, I know. It's
And
like
like
there's
you
a
can say with a straight face that like, oh, we got our young players some playoff experience, even though like it's young players who in an ideal world would never be seeing the court in a playoff game,
oh yeah, I mean,
at least not soon.
yeah, no, we'll get the Holiday brothers some playoff. Actually, they're not even young. Oh,
Aaron
Aaron's young.
Holiday's not playing.
Oh, Aaron Holiday's not playing,
And
right?
Aaron's out. Yeah.
Is Justin?
Justin was not on the injury report. I think the full list was so. I also wonder if this changed when Levert went into COVID protocols, because like he's in those, and like he went in like yesterday or the day before, so it's to the point where like he's in them, and he would be in them through like most of a first round playoff series.
Yeah.
I don't know if that factored into them just being like, all right, no, sit everybody. We don't need any of our other players, like any other potential cornerstones getting hurt in a 1-game playoff. That's ultimately just for a chance to maybe get rolled in 4 games by Philly.
Yeah. Welcome everyone to our Tuesday show. We are going live today to talk about these play-in games. We've just been talking about the Indiana Charlotte one, which is coming out at 6:30. Just to update people, I'm going to read off the Indiana Pacers injury report.
Please.
I'm going to read it from bottom to top. Some of these aren't surprises. Some of these guys have been out for a while. But
yeah,
you have TJ Warren. He's been out all year. He's out.
Yep.
Miles Turner. He's out. He's been out for a while, I think, right?
Yeah.
Edmund Sumner. He's out. Oh no, Edmund Sumner is questionable. Edmund Sumner has played around 16 minutes a game for Indiana this year, so somewhat key bench guy.
Like they're like 7th, 8th guy.
Yeah, he's actually started 24 games.
Wow.
Domantas Sabonis, he is questionable with a left quad injury. Karis LeVert is out in health and safety protocols. Jeremy Lamb is out for left knee issue. Aaron Holiday is questionable right now, but did you say has he been like downgraded to out or something?
No, I think as of right now he's still going to be game time. Honestly, when we were talking earlier, I saw him on the injury report, and I was like, my mind just went, oh, he's out. But no, I don't know if he's actually going to play or not. And
then Malcolm Brogdon is also questionable with a right hamstring injury. So,
yep.
They had a similar lineup, I believe, the other day against. Actually, no. Against Toronto the other day in the last game of the season, their starting lineup was Sabonis, O'Shea Brissett. I don't know who that is. Doug McDermott, Justin Holiday, and Karis
McBuckets.
LeVert. So no
Wait,
Karis.
wait, did you say Domas, O'Shea? Oh, I forgot about Doug McDermott. I thought we'd only listed 4 players there, but no, we listed 5.
Yeah. McDermott, Holiday, LeVert. So no LeVert, maybe no Sabonis. So if those
Yeah,
guys are out, you're probably looking at starting Goga Batadze, and uh, I guess you might start T.J. McConnell, but they kind of like doing this thing where T.J. McConnell like comes off the bench but plays like 37 minutes recently.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I think he'll come off the bench no matter what. Um,
That would
maybe
make sense.
maybe just start Kellen Martin. Um, he had 13 points off the bench against Toronto. Yeah, it's
You can build with that.
that's looking kind of bleak no matter what. For the Hornets, they have just Gordon Hayward and I think Cody Martin out. I forget which Martin brother it is.
Okay.
It's one of the Martin twins. Obviously, Hayward's been out for a while.
Yeah.
But their lineup in the last game of the season against Washington, which I imagine the lineup we'll see tonight, was Miles Bridges, Terry Rozier, LaMelo Ball, PJ Washington, and Jalen McDaniels. With their first 4 off the bench being Devontae Graham, Cody Zeller, Malik Monk, and Bismack Biyombo. I mean, if you're just looking from a pure talent perspective and seeing that Sabonis and Levert isn't playing, Sabonis might not be playing. I mean, I
Yeah.
way prefer Charlotte's 9 guys than to Indiana's. Um,
Oh, absolutely.
Indiana also has been in like a public press turmoil for the last like month of the season, with so many stories coming out about Nate Bjorkgren being like a bad coach. Who knows whether
Yeah.
those are true, but it's always bad when those are coming out anyway because someone in the organization is unhappy with him.
Yeah.
Um,
I feel like we don't get any of those that are then like proven to be the opposite of true, you know?
yeah. Um, and then we had a moment of something I've literally never seen before when one of the Pacers' assistant coaches tried to fight Goga Batadze, his own player, in the middle of a game a couple weeks ago.
I think didn't like an injured Miles Turner have to hold him back?
Yeah, yeah. he had like 3 or 4 of the Pacers guys in street clothes have to come up to him and hold him back.
Never a good sign when your coaches need to be held back from your players. Um, Now, obviously, it should be said that right after that game, somebody released a statement that was like, "Yeah, well, actually, this assistant coach and Goga have a really good relationship, and they just, in the heat of the game, things got a little bit intense." So, I mean, I think we can conclude based off of that very vanilla statement that everything's fine with those two.
I'm sure. Um, we're we're actually just talking before, just to look at like their head to head this year.
Yeah,
Obviously, this is kind of meaningless because I'm sure this lineups have not been the same. However, Charlotte did win the season series 2-1. Um,
ooh.
and let me just get up the what those wins were.
So Charlotte was 2-1 against an Indiana team that couldn't have been any less healthy than they're going to be in this game. And Charlotte was probably like, did they have Gordon Hayward for those?
Let's see. I'm looking at it now. They probably had Gordon for 2 of the 3. They played a back-to-back at the end of January, which I imagine Gordon was healthy for. And they played one about a month ago, which I imagine Gordon was out for.
Yeah.
Let me get the exact thing, though. Their last game was on April 2nd. The last game these two teams played, Charlotte won by 17. Gordon Gordon Hayward actually did play 20 minutes in this game. LaMelo didn't play though. That's when he was hurt. And the lineup for Indiana was fairly healthy. They didn't have Brogdon, but they had LeVert, Turner, and Sabonis. So, yeah, I have a tough time seeing where Indiana gets any scoring punch from tonight.
Yeah,
If DeMontis is out, it's like this game's going to be so boring.
it's very funny to me that like in the first year of this play-in tournament, the NBA did run headfirst into two scenarios that they like just had not considered when they were instituting this. Where like the first one is that sort of holding your breath moment where it's like, wait a minute, the biggest star in our league could miss the playoffs because of this thing that we just created because we thought it was a good idea. And then on the other side of the bracket, you have a team that's like colossally injured coming into it and maybe just saying, no, we're not going to play any of our starters because we don't want anybody aggravating an injury for a long-term thing.
Yeah.
Like it's going to make for boring basketball if Indiana does that, but also it is funny to see the league just like immediately have to face probably one of like the, I don't want to say worst potential byproducts of the play-in tournament, but like one of the less entertaining ways this could go.
Yeah. You know, I don't think they were expecting a team to be in a situation where they would actually just rather not be in the play-in and just kind of miss the playoffs.
Yeah.
Because it really like seems like, look, we don't know for sure, but just like the speculation and the evidence that we've seen from the last month of Indiana, I think they want this season to be over with. And their injury report literally looks like the injury reports from the teams over that last week of the season who are intentionally tanking games or like intentionally just resting guys. Like what the Clippers did the other day, where they just rest like everyone for various injuries. The Heat did this on their last game of the season where it was just like everyone gets a day off. Like their injury report looks like that everybody gets a day off load management reports.
Yeah. I think it's also funny because like when this was first introduced, the sort of talking point was, oh, well, it'll give like teams that never expected to have a chance at the playoffs a chance to be in the playoffs. And then, of course, because this is the sort of rushed COVID season, we hadn't anticipated this, but there's also the teams that expected to be like way more in the playoffs and like way more of a contender in the playoffs, sort of limping into this game with a lot of players injured and having kind of underperformed and going, well, maybe we just reshuffle, try again next year. Like get our lottery pick, see how this goes. And like, is it worth it? I don't know.
Yeah.
It's fascinating, like, way for this to unfold because it's so not what anyone was talking about when the play-in tournament was introduced.
On the flip side of that, we have a Charlotte team that definitely is like a very clear example of like an argument of it would be really good to get these young guys a playoff game.
Oh, absolutely.
LaMelo and Bridges and PJ Washington, Malik Monk, and then obviously you have some vets in there too. So I think that both like with just looking at it with like pure intangibles, like it seems like every reason in the world for Charlotte to really walk away with this game pretty easily.
Yes.
But also they're going to be, I think, by far more the fun team to watch because if we can just, the NBA will be happy if we can just get one nice LaMelo highlight out of it and then we get this game over with and move on to the other ones.
Yes. And like, I will say because, and as with all things, the Knicks have impressed on my brain with this one. When you are playing a team with everybody resting because there are apparently more important games that might come later, you run the risk of like those 7th through 15th guys on the roster coming out and just like flying around and playing at like 110% effort for the first half of the game, actually for the entire game. So like maybe Indiana keeps it close, but like if we're thinking about this one kind of rationally, it should be a Charlotte win.
Yeah. No, you're right though. That is always a possibility, and um, like can also attest to the many times I saw the Heat lose to a team with a bunch of guys resting this year. Um,
It
like,
happens.
yeah, I mean, that's kind of, I guess, to get myself more excited for this game. That is like the interesting thing about the play-in is that it is just one game. For the 9th, 10th spot at least, it is just one game, and
Yeah.
anyone can win one game.
Yeah.
Charlotte's shots could just not go in tonight. Their open threes could not go in. They could go 5
Yeah.
for 30 from 3, and then they lose. Like, that can always happen.
Like if you think about it, the most sort of potentially the most talked about player in this game is going to be LaMelo Ball, who is a rookie on not that good of a team who's being asked to do a lot. Which, like, what is the hallmark? Like, what is the hallmark of players that do that? It's inconsistency.
Yeah.
Like a lot of the time with rookies or like players that are like, yeah, well, this team was like 15 and 60 this year, 15 and 67 this year would be the math for that. Yeah, like a lot of time it's like, oh yeah, his team was awful, but he had some good highlights. He did some things. So like, it's possible that they come out and lay an egg.
Oh, yeah. I mean, this is a roster of like mostly pretty inconsistent players. So it is very possible they lay an egg, but I would be surprised.
Yeah.
So
I would be surprised to see Indiana win this. I wouldn't be surprised if they give it maybe 20 minutes of like. I didn't want to say anything because I didn't want to jinx it, but yeah.
I think we're back though, and the stream is back too. Okay, we're good.
So yeah, Indiana might be playing like 7 players and not their top 7 players in this de facto playoff game.
Yes, I would really like. I'm just very intrigued to see whatever Indiana announces as their starting lineup.
Yeah.
Fun thing I like to do is also always like you can really check the mood of something by just popping into these teams like fan subreddits.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna take a look to see how the Pacers are feeling. The Pacers fans are feeling on r/Pacers. I wonder if they just want to lose as well.
The thing I've seen on a lot of like Pacers Twitter that I've been looking at has been like, oh, everybody's making too big a deal out of this. Our injury report has looked this way for like the past 6 weeks.
Yeah. No, I'm seeing some comments like, what can you do but just laugh at this point?
Yeah. And like, I will say, another area where the Knicks have impressed on me, like, I'm kind of immune to getting hurt by like LOL Knicks stuff at this point. But if you're not from a fan base where this is the norm, where every story that breaks about your team is like, how do we laugh at this for this team? Then this is kind of an intimidating thing because you're looking at it like, oh, great, yeah, like the one time most NBA fans see our team in national TV this year is going to be when we're playing like the back of our bench. We might get boat raced, and we're just going to have to take that.
Yeah.
Like I could see being kind of dejected at this.
Me
But
too.
I could also, I don't know.
Especially after like, I don't know how many I would say exactly, but like 20 to 25 years of like Indiana always being like a incredibly stable, like kind of a Spurs type franchise that's just like always competing.
Oh yeah.
Like not winning championships, but always competing, always in the playoffs. Never any turmoil to be heard of. I guess they were in the Mouse.
Well, there was
Palace.
that one time they had a pretty notable, yeah.
Yeah.
That was one of the most heard of turmoils in NBA history.
That's a good point. That was not that notwithstanding.
Yeah, no, from like a contention standpoint, they have been pretty consistently like a good team.
Yeah.
For a while.
I will point out one post on Pacers subreddit where someone posted 20 hours ago. Is Sabonis on the level of Jokic offensively? Thankfully, everyone in the comments is saying no.
Yeah, like that's look, we all get a little bit ahead of ourselves when we're talking about our teams. I notably said at one point this year that I really liked the way the Knicks matched up with the Bucks.
Mm-hmm.
We say things as fans. And as you know, as other fans, it's everyone's job to sort of bring the most lofty-minded of our groups of our fan. Why am I blanking on the term for just groups of fans? Yeah, for the most lofty-minded fans of our teams, it's our job to sort of bring them back to reality. Be like, no,
Mm-hmm.
no, this I'm excited too, but stay real about it. We
Well,
don't need to be up there.
yeah, they've gone really downhill from the brief moment when Charles Barkley called Sabonis a top 10 player.
Well, remember though that
Oh
Mitchell
yeah,
Robinson blocked Domas Sabonis' dunk attempt shortly thereafter and took the title of Charles Barkley top 10 player in the NBA.
that's true. Um,
Did
so
Mitchell Robinson end the pace consistency? Many are saying he did, but we have three other play-in games to talk about. So I'll let history
yeah,
be the judge of that.
I'm hoping Charlotte wins tonight, so it can be kind of like an end of this nightmare season for the Pacers, where everyone's been injured, everyone's had they've had so many COVID protocol issues. Um,
Yeah,
the whole the whole thing that happened with Karis LeVert when they traded for him, um, the Oladipo, just it's been
yeah.
it's
Like
been
even
a
coming into the
bad year
season, their
ever
best
since.
player
Yeah,
or one of their best players wanted out. So like they started off on a rough note and things haven't really gotten easier.
yeah, and this is all coming off of a season that they got swept in the first round too. So
I'd not thought of that. Yeah,
maybe maybe they need some retooling. We'll talk about that more in the off-season show. I know a lot of Pacers fans have. I was reading some thread yesterday where a Pacers fan was talking about this instability when you actually step back and look at it could be should have been a little bit more expected. They lost all of their older players. It's so many young guys on this team now, and a new
oh yeah,
coach, and all new assistant coaches too.
yes,
So in a lot of ways, there should have been instability expected.
yeah. Like the fact that they are where they are is more impressive than we're gonna give it credit for. Just because again, we're so used to Indiana being a little bit better than this.
Yeah.
But in any event, speaking of teams that we're used to being a little bit better than this, let's move over to the other side of the Eastern Conference play-in bracket. The Celtics play the Wizards tonight. Uh, Jaylen Brown is out. Robert Williams is, I think, questionable, but it's looking like he's going to be out. And then Bradley Beal is going to play, but he's going to be 80% at
Mm-hmm.
most. Like he played on Sunday, and he was looking kind of labored.
Yes.
The head-to-heads from this series are in the ninth game of the season. Boston beat Washington 116-107. I think we all remember how tumultuous the start of Washington's season was. 15 games in, we were talking about whether or not Bradley Beal would even finish the season as a Wizard. Then, a month later, in February, Washington beat Boston 104-91 in a game that that Marcus Smart didn't play in. Bradley Beal had 35 points. And Jason Tatum only had 6 points, only played 23 minutes. I think that may have been pretty recently after he was off COVID protocols. And then a week after that, the Celtics beat the Wizards in overtime by a point. Jason Tatum had 31. Jaylen Brown did not play. Bradley Beal and Russell Westbrook did play. It's a tough one to evaluate. I think also a lot of Washington's advanced metrics are going to be kind of skewed by a pretty rocky start to the year. Like the January February Wizards that the Celtics played, I don't think is the same Washington that they're going to play tonight.
Yeah, no,
And I'm
the
not in the Washington Homer way. I just think they are a different team now.
yeah, the dynamics have completely shifted on these teams. Um, you have a Boston team that like really limped their way towards the end of the season. They lost what is this? 5 of their last 6 games, 6 of their last 8 games.
Oh yeah,
In the middle of a playoff race, in the middle of trying to stay out of the play in the most important time of the season. Obviously, they didn't have Jaylen Brown
no,
for much of those
and even
games,
before that,
but still, um, a team that has looked a bit lost, to say the least, um, versus like one of the hottest teams in the NBA over the last month. So with now reigning player of the month Russell Westbrook, I don't think any of us would have been expecting that after his start to the season. Westbrook's like last 2 months of the season has been, really kind of like prime Westbrook stuff, and I feel like he's
yeah,
almost like taken over a bit as like the face of that team,
yeah.
which is
It's
interesting because Bradley Beal's been on the team for like 8 years.
yeah, no, it's at the start of the season. I feel like the dynamic was like, okay, yeah, Bradley Beal is going to have to do literally everything involved in getting a shot for himself, and we're seeing a little bit more out of Westbrook now, which is nice. Um,
Yeah, so
yes, 9 games in May, Russell Westbrook's averaging 26 points, 16 assists, and uh, 14 rebounds.
yeah, uh, pretty ridiculous. Happy to see him playing well. The Wizards lineup, I'm guessing their lineup tonight again. This was their lineup in the last game of the season. Will be looking something like Russell Westbrook, Bradley Beal, Rui Hachimura, Davis Bertans, and Alex Len.
Mm-hmm.
Um, a perfectly like fine lineup. Not a lot of defensive prowess there. You have a couple guys you could target. Um, and then their first 3 guys off the bench the other day were Ish Smith, Robin Lopez, and Daniel Gafford. Whereas the Celtics have been playing. Let me get this up. What were they playing against Miami?
Lineup without Jalen, I think wouldn't that be like Tatum, Smart, Kemba, Rob Williams? If not Rob Williams, then probably Tristan Thompson
Yeah,
and
Fournier.
Shammy. Are they going to start Shammy in this game?
I think they'll start Fournier. Is Fournier hurt?
No, isn't Fournier out? He's in. Wait, is Fournier playing in this?
I actually don't know. Double check.
I know he was out against the Knicks, but he may have been like at the end of an injury. Let's see. Live update: is Fournier playing? If he's healthy, yeah, they'll probably start him. You're right.
Yeah, so the lineup they threw up against the Heat for 2 games last week was Kemba, Tatum, Fournier, Smart, and Rob Williams. But then the other day against Cleveland, they played Tatum, Fournier, Tristan Thompson, Tremont Waters, and Aaron Nesmith. So yeah, I guess we'll kind of have to wait and see on what the lineup's going to be tonight because I don't really think we can trust what these lineups were at the very end of the season because they're obviously going to be trying out different things when they know they don't have to win once they were kind of locked into that play-in spot. Again, hard to take much from those head-to-heads we were just talking about, but I mean, Boston does not have. They have Smart, and you throw Smart on. Actually, maybe they can handle it. Between Smart and Tatum, you got 2 perimeter defenders that are pretty good.
Yeah.
So, I guess you can deal
and like
with.
Washington's roster outside of those 2 is in terms of like actual playmaking and shot making ability.
Yeah. I see a lot of people picking the Wizards tonight, and I get that, but I also. I could very easily see Boston taking this as well.
Yeah.
Like I do think Brad Stevens has gotten to a point where maybe he is a bit overrated, but I do think just in a one game playoff situation like this, I do trust like the Brad Stevens planning and adjustments more than a Scott Brooks. Um, at the same time, when this game does get down to the wire, if it does, I don't know. This is a tough one. Would you rather have Kemba and Tatum, or would you rather have Westbrook and Beal?
It's tough, and I think it's complicated by the fact that like we're not getting Bradley Beal. We're
Yeah,
getting like Bradley Beal at 80%, maybe 75. Um, so it's I'd probably take Tatum and Kemba in this scenario, just because. Also, I don't think anybody on the Wizards can do what Marcus Smart does
yeah.
defensively.
I actually think this is.
Either of Tatum.
Mhm. The more we talk about this, I actually think this is kind of a not a great matchup for Washington. Even though they're gonna have like they'll have like the like unquantifiable like heart in this game, um,
Yes.
and Westbrook can sway a game by himself in either direction, depending on the night. Um, but I do think you're right. They have no one that can guard Tatum. They have no one that can guard Kemba. If Fournier plays, they don't even have someone that can guard Fournier. Um, well, actually, let me double check that. I know there's some good. There's got to be a good defender in this team.
It's it seems like one that a lot of people kind of wrote off too quickly for just being like, oh yeah, the Celtics don't have Jalen, they'll get bounced here.
Yeah. Um, I know people. Let's see who. Yeah, no, I agree with you. Yeah, I mean, I think the guys who people say are good defenders, I actually haven't been playing much. Like, I know people. There's like Wizards fans that'll say Isaac Bonga is a really good defender.
Yeah.
And who's the other one? Jerome Robinson, I believe. But is he even on the team still? Is he hurt? I don't even know. I'm sorry for openly admitting I know like nothing about the rest of this Wizards lineup, but um, yeah, I could see this swinging either way. I am going to. Oh, Jerome Robinson's been playing like here and there. Okay, I know people say he's a good defender. Um, I don't want this to happen, but I'm going to go with the unpopular opinion here, and I think that the Celtics will win.
I think okay, so in the interest of not like the interest that both of us really have, which is I don't think we want Boston fans to get good things, and B, in the interest of being contrarian for the sake of the show, I'm gonna say the Wizards win this, and my logic is mostly dependent on this one question. Does this not feel like the kind of game that Russell Westbrook just shows up in?
Yeah. No, you're right.
Like this, it's like a game that ultimately doesn't mean a ton, but if he has like a legendary, not legendary, but if he has like a performance that we really remember, it's going to impact like a lot of the discussion around him. And I feel like I don't think Russ really cares about that, but I do think it's just with the way that Russ things have gone in his career. This feels like a Westbrooky game.
Yeah. No, I think so too. I see the argument, and I see why a lot of people are picking the Wizards. I kind of I just feel like after both teams top two, it it drops down a lot for both teams, but
Yeah.
I just feel like Boston has a little bit more to work with there, and I just can envision the situation of Washington being really incapable of guarding the big Boston scorers here. However, I will say that
Oh,
the Boston defense has been such a mess over the last this whole season. Um,
Yeah.
so they could also kind of shit the bed. I think Stevens had a comment. It was after one of the Heat games, or no, it was after the Cleveland game, I think, where he just kind of talked about how like this team in theory should be a good defensive team, and they just aren't. Um,
Yeah.
and a lot of that, we're not like experts on defensive schemes and everything, but it does feel like if a team should be a good defensive team and aren't, it comes down to either like effort or like the coach. Um, so I don't know if Brad took some personal responsibility there for them not being as good as they should be, but he's right. In theory, they should have been, but not having Jalen tonight will certainly hurt them.
I know.
I'll go. I
At
can
one
go
point
either
this
way
year,
on this, but I'm gonna lean Boston.
I know at one point this year, Bomani Jones had Bruce Bowen on his podcast, and basically asked him like, "So what's been the deal with Boston this year? Like Jaylen Brown took a leap, Jason Tatum is Jason Tatum, but for whatever reason it's not clicking." And Bruce Bowen basically said like they might have just stopped responding to Brad Stevens in the same way, which like it's a thing that happens with coaches in any sport. Like after a while, their shtick just kind of gets old with the same people.
Yeah,
It's a thing
for sure.
that, like football, Jim Harbaugh is notorious for. At every stop he goes to, everyone gets tired of him after like 5-ish years. So like I think it's possible, but yeah, like it ultimately winds up looking like just sort of an effort thing, which does not bode well when you are playing against like the most notorious I only know effort player in the NBA.
And not to, I mean, well, we always do this. We always bring this back to the Knicks or the Heat, but it's got to be a little demoralizing last season to like, yeah, they lost in 6 games, but it felt a little bit more like 5 games that the Heat won in. Like it was an easy 6. It wasn't like a tough combated series, 6 games. And when at the end of the day you look down and look at those rosters, and the Celtics probably had like on paper 3 or 4 of the best players in that series, and still lost really poorly. And at the end of the day, you got to think like, okay, a lot of that comes down to the coaches. I mean, Brad Stevens was not able to figure out the Spoelstra zone in that series whatsoever. It's like the reason that they lost those first 2 games. So you got to think as a player,
And that's
like knowing that like your reputation of your coach is like, oh, he's like this boy genius, he's young, but he's got like this genius basketball mind, and then just see him getting like completely outcoached by Spoelstra, and arguably outcoached also by Nick Nurse in the previous series.
Oh yeah, because Nick Nurse boxed and won Kemba right out of that series.
Yeah, and that series should never have gone to 7 games, and did. So
I do think Brad Stevens kind of winds up in like this. So there's a thing with I keep bringing this back to football, and I'm sorry about that.
Go for it.
But basically, there's a thing with Notre Dame football where like they're definitely better than your average college football team every year. Like they're one of the 6 or 7 best, but they're also just good enough to get into games against like Alabama or Clemson or Ohio State, who are like the only 3 teams that are prohibitively, definitively better than them. And so it always winds up looking like this huge blowout loss, and Notre Dame was a fraud because, they ran into a team that would have blown out just about anybody. And I feel like Brad Stevens almost winds up in that class of coach where it's like, yeah, he's a really, really good coach, but then he winds up in a series against like a Spo or a Nick Nurse where it's like, no, they're fantastic at like specifically playoff coaching and like the adjustments within a series that can tilt it game to game, like when you have this long amount of exposure to the team that you're playing every night.
But at the same time, like you have that, and then at the same time though, you did have a couple years ago where there were a couple years where the Celtics actually did overachieve. There was that playoff run without Kyrie Irving where they made it to the conference finals and was 1 game away from the finals and beating LeBron. were they like insanely overperformed in that entire playoff run, and Brad Stevens got
Oh yeah,
everything out of like a very young Tatum and Brown at that point,
yeah.
and
A young
everything else.
Terry too.
Young Terry. I mean, you also had like you had good vets there and like Al Horford and
That's
everything.
true. Yeah, I think they had a Morris brother at that point.
Yeah, I think it was Marcus. Um,
Yeah.
so we've seen it kind of go both ways with Brad, um, and I do wonder how long this goes for. But it also begs the question of like, should we really be putting any of this on Brad when so much of it could also just be like a Danny Ainge question of
To be fair, also like this season specifically, I feel like it's unfair to draw like any too big conclusions
yeah,
because like if you look at their, we talked about it before the season, like their roster construction was they got seven, and then after seven we don't know what they have, and then this year like at no point were all seven of their like top rotation guys available at the same time.
yeah,
So
oh
like
yeah,
I think they underperformed this season, but I also don't want to like rush into saying they should make any too big moves just because it was such a weird year, and like I feel like the weird year impacted different teams, like some teams a little bit more than others.
oh yeah, and then
Like the Utah Jazz never had any, didn't really have any too big problems with health and safety protocols. Didn't really have too many injuries. They wound up the one seed. Like
mhm,
Indiana, Boston got pretty. I mean, even Miami at times got pretty
yeah,
shelled by COVID protocols, and now they're in what 6, 7, 8 in the East,
yeah. I mean,
6, 7, 9.
I'll bring it up every single time that I can, but the I guess I mean the Nuggets ended up third. Good for them. But like Nuggets, Miami, Boston, and the Lakers all all a little bit worse than anyone except for Nuggets. Nuggets are exactly where a lot of people predicted them to be. Although some people thought maybe they
Yeah,
could be the one seed. I think both of us kind of flirted with them possibly being one. Um,
yeah,
but you know, all four conference finals teams, serious injury problems, COVID problems,
yeah,
um, and yeah, I think it's kind of. I mean, like when you take a step back and look at it, it is crazy to just see like the two teams in the finals last year are 6 and 7 right now, like, and obviously the Heat were like fifth last year, so it's not really that big of a difference, and they're like
right.
the East is so tight, like it's one game off of fourth, but um,
And then
yeah,
obviously like the Lakers had a freak injury, but like they took a little bit to get started this year too. Like I feel like I don't think we should ignore the fact that they did play for so much longer and were like had so much less rest than other teams.
yeah, definitely, um, and I just said all that to kind of agree with your point and say like yeah, a lot of the excuses I've kind of been able to give the Heat this year I think are also fair to go with the Celtics. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I think at some point you got to have the conversation about like so far they have not been able to build around Jason and Jalen in any productive way. And even if they've been able to make the conference finals, they always seem far away from actually taking that next step to get to the finals. Um, but anyway, before we start talking about the next game, do you mind if I just go grab a beer?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay.
I'll riff.
Okay.
So yeah, they're in a weird spot this year. I It's unfortunate because I feel like through no fault of their own, they just wound up never really having the timing right. Whether it was Tatum coming back, like having the Devils' time coming back from COVID, Kemba dealing with injuries that I feel like started up even like last year that just never really got right. Obviously, Jalen needed a wrist surgery, and even before that, for like some time, it looked like he'd been playing through a couple things, and that was just like the straw that broke the camel's back. Marcus Smart had like pretty serious calf injury. Um, Also, I should let any of you watching know that I can't see the comments right now. So I would love to have a back and forth with all of you, but I unfortunately cannot see it. I also just realized I said that the Jazz did not have any COVID protocol problems, and then I remembered that the Jazz had like the ultimate COVID protocol problem last season.
That's true.
Like, can you imagine what the scene was like inside the Utah Jazz's building when they were going over the COVID protocols for the first time this season? Just like at every bullet point, just like a pointed look right in Rudy Gobert's direction from everybody in the room. Like, okay, we're going to wear our masks everywhere. We are going to sanitize our hands. We are going to sanitize surfaces. Do we understand that? Do we understand that? Like, they, I would have loved to be a fly on the wall in that room because, like, it's a thing that
No,
I
me
feel
too.
like, thankfully, kind of Rudy Gobert has been able to live down a bit. But for a while there, I feel like there was a lot flying Rudy Gobert's way because of when he did the thing touching the microphones.
Yeah. No, that was pretty bad. But shall we move to tomorrow's games?
Speaking of pretty bad, how about the Grizzlies versus the Spurs? Nailed that transition. Both of these teams are actually kind of good.
Well, Spurs have kind of took a weird dip over the last like 15 games where I don't know if you're looking at the same thing I'm looking, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. They lost 10 of their last 12 to end the season, which I
Jeez.
did not realize. I don't know
Not
if there's
great.
any injury report for them. Um, for
Let's find
The only guy I know is out is Derek White because he had a season-ending injury like a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
But I think you described this series, this possible play-in tournament, this possible play-in game pretty well last week or the week before, where this is almost like an inverse of Pacers Hornets, where this is actually kind of like a basketball, like it's like an NBA Twitter nerd game of like if you've like been like paying attention to the season and get like kicks out of like just teams doing weird good things,
Yeah.
then Memphis San Antonio is should be actually a really fun, entertaining game. Both teams are pretty deep. Both teams have
Yeah.
like just a lot of guys. The lineup that, let's see, what has Memphis been rolling out? Okay, in Memphis's recent game where they played Sacramento, I imagine this is the starting lineup we'll see tomorrow, unless there is an injury report that I am not aware of, which is John
Yeah.
Morant, Dylan Brooks, Jonas Valanciunas, Kyle Anderson, and Jaren Jackson Jr. With a bench lineup of Desmond Bane, Brandon Clark, DeAnthony Melton, and then you have some guys that'll play like 5-6 minutes, depending on the night. But
Yeah.
Xavier Tillman probably sees some time.
Yeah.
There's still like Justice Winslow at the end of this bench as well.
Bane's going to make some appearances. NBA Twitter All-Star Desmond Bane, I feel like.
Oh yeah, Bane and Brooks I feel like are like weird. Like Brooks is like a different type of all-star because Desmond Bane is just like kind of an analytics darling already because he had like a ridiculous true shooting percentage this year as a rookie, which is always rare. And
Yeah.
but then Dylan Brooks has just like the reputation of just like really like play like one of those guys that plays obscenely hard for like how like kind of just barely above average of a player he is.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't say like let's see, Brooks averaged 17 a game this year on like not great efficiency. I wouldn't say he's in that category of guys like he's not in the category of like guys who are just below all stars or anything like that. He's like just like a pretty good NBA player who is just a really intense
He's
one.
an all right starting guard.
Yeah. was just a really intense one. Will play really good defense, and just is going to get in everyone's face for the entire game, which is always fun.
Yeah.
And Memphis has a lot of guys like that. I would never want to mess at all with like someone like Jonas Valanciunas. Um, they got
Never.
like guys like Tillman and Melton are really tough as well, and obviously Morant will just kind of go flying into the paint, shooting these acrobatic, like Derrick
Oh yeah.
Rose, like rookie Derrick Rose esque types of shots. So you just have like a very fun team with a bunch of different characters on it too, because obviously you also have like Kyle Anderson, who is just like a very oddly entertaining player because I mean, his nickname is Slow Mo for a reason. He just moves very slowly, but like knows how to move slowly and is like really smart
Yeah.
about it. Um, the only time Tom and Dave have gone viral is when we shared a clip of Kyle Anderson running a fast break, in which what he did, I forget who was guarding him, but I think it was Marcus
I
Morris.
think it was Ben Simmons.
Oh no, it was Ben. Oh no, yeah, no, it was Simmons and Harris. Um,
Yeah.
and what he did was he went so slow. I think it was actually Tobias Harris. Tobias Harris was like kind of like on his back for the whole time. Like I think definitely waiting to like just kind of wait for the moment that he was going to go up for the layup and just kind of block it from behind. But
Yeah.
he was also like kind of expecting him to speed up at one point. So he goes so slow for this entire fast break that once he gets to the layup, I think Harris is expecting him to speed up and just like ends up in front of him, or something like that. It's just a really ridiculous clip when you watch it because you're just like, surely like Tobias could have just like run in front of him because he was running so slowly. But Kyle Anderson does some weird mind game trick there. So yeah, this Memphis team's a lot of fun. So they'll be fun tomorrow.
Yeah. Like it's. I feel like it's going to be like 2.5 hours of basketball Twitter just going like, well, actually, I'm a big fan of this player. Well,
Yeah,
I'm a big fan of this guy. I'm like, it's just going to be like, oh yeah, you watch a lot of basketball. All right. Well then, tell me your Desmond Bain takes.
yeah.
What do you think of the fact that Gorgie Dang is still getting minutes for the Grizzlies? Huh? Huh? I also think Lonnie Walker is going to be an all-star one day. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, so that brings us to the Spurs, whose lineup, presumably, unless there's an injury report that I don't know about, will be DeMar
Yeah.
DeRozan, DeJounte Murray, Jakob Poeltl, Keldon Johnson, and Lonnie Walker. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so, talked about in our show last week, Jakob Poeltl. Have not followed him much this year, I'll be honest, but has been getting some random like end of the ballot defensive player of the year love. So that's not worth nothing. People are saying that
Yeah.
for a reason, I'm sure. Then you have four incredibly long players in DeMar, DeJounte, Keldon, and Lonnie.
Yeah.
And then they're just like their weird bench unit that is like these old guys where it's just like Patty Mills and Rudy Gay come off the bench. Um,
Yeah.
and they have Gorgie Dang now. He's been playing like here and there for them.
Devin Vassell is going to give him some problems.
Devin Vassell, yeah. He's also been a good rookie this year. Drew Eubanks,
Yeah.
I actually am not sure who that is. I'll be completely honest. Okay, he's been in the league for 3 years. I really should know who that is.
Lyles still floating around.
Oh, God. Yeah, Trey Lyles is still on the team. um, well, there was that moment, I think, when Trey Lyles was almost traded on the deadline
Oh no.
because
Oh yeah, I remember that now.
he was in some trade that fell through.
Yeah.
And Trey Lyles also had a funny moment of actually having a headline before the trade deadline where it was like Trey Lyles would like to move on from the Spurs as if he has any leverage whatsoever. Not playing ever.
But great. Would the Spurs like you to? Nah. Okay. Yeah. No. Then we're just going to move on to the next one. Let's go.
But But yeah, this will be a fun game where I actually have no idea what to expect. I don't know who to pick in this game.
This seems like the toughest one to predict, actually. Um, I think when in doubt, I'm going to go with the Spurs because the Spurs have the ultimate when in doubt pick, which is just a lot of guys that know how to win games in this league.
Yeah,
Um,
they've got
like
the
DeMar
old guys.
DeRozan, ready for this. Rudy Gay knows how to conduct himself on this stage. I think there's an element of, I don't want to say picking the house, but kind of picking the house.
Yeah, pick and pop.
Yeah, yeah, that's a really good point.
DeMar DeRozan has been
Like
in the
it's
conference finals. Rudy Gay, I think, has been in the conference finals with the Spurs. Uh,
he also, I feel like, did he go to one with Memphis?
he was on the eighth seed Memphis, right? Or
He
no.
was.
But that team didn't make it to the conference finals. That was like the fifth seed Memphis team that did.
I feel like the Grit and Grind Grizzlies went to one conference finals, and I'm gonna.
They did. Um, it was the year I want to say they beat the Lakers. Didn't they beat the Lakers and we didn't have a OKC Lakers series or something?
Oh, that may have been it. Yeah. All right. Let's see. So yeah, there was that year they were the eighth seed. Um,
Do you remember what the context of that was? How they won that series? Was someone hurt on the other team?
I know they. Hmm, I'm trying to find it right now. They beat the Spurs in six. I don't think anybody was hurt for the Spurs. I think they just kind of like shocked them a bit because that was a sneaky, really tough team. Like with Gasol, Zebo, Rudy Gay, Tony
Okay,
Allen, and
maybe it. So I'm seeing Manu missed one game, but that shouldn't really make them lose the whole series. Maybe it was something where Memphis was hurt
with
throughout
Manu.
this. Where Memphis was hurt throughout the season and just fell to 8 because of injuries,
Mhm.
but we're like way better than that.
That's a good point. Yeah.
It had to have been something like that. But anyway, oh, actually, one thing we should actually just quickly go back to with the East.
Yeah.
So, do you think either of the teams that you have winning have any? I mean, this is a quick answer. Either of the teams you have winning have any shot against Brooklyn or Philly?
No.
Okay,
Seven game series? No.
Yeah, no, I don't either. Yeah, we can move on. Just wanted to address
I would
that.
love to beat like the one seeded Philadelphia 76ers. It would be fun, but no. I
That
don't
would
see
be
it.
fun.
We close our preview with the Lakers versus the Warriors.
The like. This is
Tomorrow's
the
late game.
yes tomorrow's late game, and it is the like. What is it? Creme de la creme. Is that the saying?
Yeah,
It's
nailed it.
it's the creme de la creme of what a playing game could possibly be. I mean, this is what the NBA wanted. This is what we said might happen last week or 2 weeks ago.
Yeah,
And I'm actually amazed that we ended up with it. Like the Lakers just kept resting LeBron and kept losing, so it happened.
yeah.
Portland won the games they had to win, and very like Keeley won the game against Lakers like 10 days ago, so they would have the tiebreaker. And now we're here, where the Los Angeles Lakers, reigning champs, the team that I think both of us had in a category of its own in the preseason rankings, are going to be in the play-in and are
Yeah.
2 losses away from not being in the playoffs.
Can I, to sort of kick off to talk about this game, I'm going to ask it bluntly. Is there a path to the Warriors winning this game that does not include 40 45 plus points from Steph?
Um, maybe it would be. I don't think there's a clear. There's not a really easy path to that, but there's always a chance that everyone clicks on one night. And
Yeah, that's a good point.
however, like, I mean, what you'd need for that to happen, you would need like, okay, you'd need like 35 from Steph, and then like 20 apiece from Wiggins, Draymond, um, maybe even like,
Juan?
yeah, maybe even like Juan Toscano, like a random like five threes off the bench from Kent Bazemore. Like it would have to be really everyone's clicking,
Yeah.
because Kelly Oubre is not even playing.
Nope.
Damian Lee isn't playing. Like, and these are guys that were playing minutes with them, so that matters. Like,
Yeah.
Kelly
Like,
Oubre
that's,
was fourth in
to me,
minutes
this
on the
winds
team.
up.
Mm-hmm.
Who
Sorry,
is
you go.
this?
Oubre, fourth in
No,
minutes
I
on
was
the
just,
team.
like, to me, this game just winds up being a lot of playing the where do the points come from game, where it's like, okay, like, do we believe in JTA to put up 15 points against one of the best defenses in the league? Do we believe in Draymond putting up like 20? Because like we would have to reasonably pick the Warriors in this one.
Yeah. Um, the X factor here is obviously, well, besides it being Steph, it's obviously the fact that the Warriors have been surging lately and been playing like one of the best teams in basketball for the last 15 games, while the
Yeah.
Lakers have like barely meshed together this roster. Like
Yes.
like the the Lakers roster of last year with the Schroeder, Harrell, and Wesley Matthews additions have like barely played all together. All those guys have played a ton together without LeBron and Davis at this point. So I guess they're on maybe
Yeah.
on some sort of same page, but having not pl- but at the same time, does this is something like that type of inconsistency. Obviously this is hard to know, but does that hurt them more in a one game scenario or hurt them more in a series?
The fact that they haven't played together this much,
Yeah.
I feel like it almost would hurt them more in a series, but it's going to hurt them like less as the series go on. Like they're going to play Phoenix or Utah round one, and I say Phoenix or Utah just to like be safe. Which is not an easy series, but if you come out of that, like you got Denver round two, and you've probably gotten some degree of right by that point.
Hmm.
Like I think they'll get better as the playoffs go on, but in a one game series, it's a lot easier to just lean on talent.
Yeah,
Like, oh,
definitely.
okay, cool, yeah, we need one basket with like 2 minutes left. We have two of the best players in the world at doing that.
Yeah.
What do you
As
think?
I agree. As much as I would love to pick the Warriors here, I do feel like the if there's a time that the Lakers can just like switch it on, it would be just right now. And
Yeah,
yeah, they've been inconsistent and barely played together, but like you just said, they have the guys to just make this happen really quickly. And I don't think like I mean this isn't a shock to say. I don't think as good of a coach that Spur as Kerr is. I don't think he really has like the personnel right now to make some like quirky matchup choices that'll like put the Lakers in kind of a bind or anything. Like there's just not the they just don't have the
yeah.
guys for that. Um like
No, yeah. Kerr seems a lot more in like that Phil Jackson mold than the mold of like a Greg Popovich,
mm,
where it's kind of like, no, if you need me to just like keep the ship afloat with like a ton of ego, I can do it. Am I gonna get like weirdly crafty when I have to? Maybe not as much.
yeah.
Um,
So like the lineup that they
Kerr, if
played the
you're
other
listening, please
hmm?
you go.
What were you gonna say?
I was just gonna say, Steve Curry, if you're listening, I was gonna say please don't come over the top and dunk on us for this take, but actually please do. It would be great for our engagement. If
It
you want
would
to come
be.
on the pod to discuss your legacy as a head coach, we'd love to have you.
That would be awesome.
Um,
Tom and I have
but
we're
yeah,
we're,
that would be great.
we're announcing this to the two people who are watching right now. So if anyone knows, like 6 or 7 months ago,
Shout
I
out to you
mentioned to
guys.
Tom that a fun goal for the off season would be to get one player to come on this
One
show.
NBA player.
Just one. Doesn't G League player would be cool too.
NBA player.
Yeah.
Singular.
Um. So
Former Drew
anyone,
League player would be cool.
maybe someone on this Warriors team, Michael Mulder.
Mm.
I feel like he's attainable.
A player we've been nice to for a very long time now.
Who?
Brad Wanamaker,
Oh yeah.
our favorite 2019 Boston Celtic.
I mean, Juan Toscano Anderson feels like he's actually gotten too popular. Too many people talk
Yeah.
about him as like a really great like hustle guy and everything, and a winning plays type guy that I don't know. Um,
Yeah, he might be a little tough to get at this point.
Now I'm just trying to see who on the Lakers or Warriors, or actually who in the play-in tournament would be
I
the
don't think
player.
I don't think we did.
What'd you say?
Before we go on the who could we get on this program tangent, we're both picking the Lakers, right?
Yes.
Okay, good. Yeah, that's. I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, actually, I was just gonna say, just to look at the Warriors before we got on that, the Warriors lineup that they're probably throwing out is going to be the starting lineup they've had recently of Steph, Draymond, Wiggins, Looney, and Bazemore,
Yeah.
with the three off the bench being Juan Toscano Anderson, Jordan Poole, and Michael Mulder.
Mhm.
Um, mm, which, like I was saying before, I don't see what the fun, like, interesting matchup you can do there against these Lakers guys are. And as we've talked about before with the Lakers, the versatility that they have with between the Drummond, Harrell, Gasol, three-headed monster is just like enough
Oh yeah.
to like. I think we'll find out really early on in this game which of those three is going to be the most effective against the Warriors. I'm sure all get targeted by Steph in like pick and rolls and everything, but
Oh, absolutely.
there's also a great chance that this is just like a 20 rebound game for Andre Drummond, um, because
And like you were the absolute negatives that an Andre Drummond 20 rebound game sometimes comes with.
yeah,
It's. I'll say as a closing note, I don't see the path to the Warriors contending in this game really, but I want to. Like if that means Steph Curry has to go out and put up 60, I would love to see it. But I don't necessarily I don't want to bet on a player having that kind of performance. Even Steph, because I think it's really hard to do.
yeah, I don't see it either. I hate to be picking the less fun option, but
Yeah.
like we've seen, like this Warriors team has been great recently, but we also have seen what this Warriors team can be at times, and just like the floor is so low. The
Yeah.
floor when Steph is out of the game is like it's underground. It's like it's
Yeah.
um. So yeah, we actually, to answer your first question, there is a chance always that everyone can kind of go off, which would be good. But I do
Yeah.
think there's just like the path has to be like a Steph 40 plus situation. And
Yeah.
you're gonna need like a really good Andrew Wiggins game too.
Yeah. Because even Steph going for 40, we're assuming the Lakers get what, like at least 95 on you, let's say.
Hmm.
You've got to find 55 points from the rest of your team.
Yeah,
Like 25 from Wiggins. How many shots is it taking to get there?
yeah,
From Draymond? How many shots is it taking to get there?
I really don't want to give any praise or comments about Bill Simmons, but he actually made a very funny comment about Wiggins the other day, which is very true, where he said that people on NBA Twitter and like on the Warriors in general, like, are kind of like, and I did this last week, where we're acting like anytime Wiggins is doing something like kind of good, even though he's in his seventh year in the league, people are treating him like he's like the I think his word was like he's like the equipment manager who made a big shot. Like they're just in shock and awe that he is like playing at a like
Is
a
that
smart
basketball
NBA
stuff?
game. Yeah.
No, it's completely true.
Um,
He's playing within himself this year.
yes, he really is. That is one of Tom and I's favorite um, commentator cliches is when they say someone is playing within themselves because
I don't think we're top five commentator cliches, but we should for an off-season episode.
we should. Playing within themselves is fun because it's normally a player that is considered a bit out of control. Um, it's often reserved for like a young player too. Wiggins is an exception, I think, um, where like they might take a lot of stupid shots. Like they might have that type of reputation. They might make some like flashy plays that go poorly. Um, but they're maybe they're over time they've like matured a bit and are
Yeah,
now like as they say they're playing within their own skill set. Um,
I think like by the time you hit like 28, 29, we just assume you can play within yourself.
yes.
There's no hardened, there's no that statistic for it, but we're just like, no, you know at this point.
Yeah, I mean, as much as it's a cliche that's really dumb, it's not a bad point that players should like learn to play their role. But if they worded it like that,
Yeah.
it would make a lot more sense. Um,
Well, especially because like players coming up now have players in the NBA, I feel like have been one of the one or two best players on every team they've ever played on. So it's
yeah,
like, all right, yeah, makes sense that you might not know how to be the guy that like comes off the bench, cuts a ton, and like has to work off ball a lot to get a shot. But if you learn how to do that, great.
yeah.
But no, it's
And
phrased as playing with yourself.
another type of player they love to use this for is just role players in general. Um, they love, I guarantee, in the Nets game and in the Heat game, we will hear they played within themselves about Duncan Robinson, maybe
Yep.
Trevor Ariza. Um,
Old to get plays within himself
he's
though.
probably too old. Yeah, we'll hear about Joe Harris. I don't know
Yeah.
why I'm just picking these two teams. We'll hear it about Bruce Brown.
Bruce Brown's a big plays within himself guy.
Yeah, even though he's literally played
Swiss Army
center this year.
on a nightly basis.
Hmm?
He's versatile.
He is versatile.
Bruce Brown's like a Swiss Army knife guy.
Hmm.
He's good at knowing what the team needs from him on a nightly basis.
It's true.
He's toolsy. He's toolsy. I like that one. I
Um,
think my favorite announcer cliches are just any of the ones that have a Y at the end,
hmm.
where it's like, oh, that guy, yeah, he's twitchy. You know,
Twitchy's good. Yeah.
he's twitchy. Every once in a while he'll do a thing that's like surprisingly, like shockingly athletic, and it's just like, whoa, that was twitchy. That jumped off the screen. Good job.
Yeah, that's a really good one. Nifty is another good one for older players who are normally older white players who are just
Yeah.
like have a good. This was like used 1 billion times last playoffs for Goran Dragic. They love to call him Nifty when he does a little fast break and does a little Euro step or something. Hmm.
And then, yeah, you're a nifty player now. You're
Yeah.
crafty. That's
Crafty.
two
That's
sides
the
of
big
the
one.
coin. Nifty and
So I guess we have to do the predictions really quickly of. So I think Boston's going to win. So we both think Charlotte's winning. I think Boston
Yes.
will win. You think Washington's gonna win. Then
I'm
tomorrow
picking my
night,
Wizard.
yeah, tomorrow night, I have no clue who's winning the first game.
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna
And
agree with you
it's
though
good.
and say San Antonio. Um,
Yeah.
and then Lakers. So
Yep.
then we have the second round of the play-in tournament, which I always forget about when I'm thinking about it. Um, which I believe is happening on Friday or Thursday.
Yes.
Um,
I think it would be Thursday.
yeah, it's got to be Thursday
Hang
because
on.
there's playoff games are starting on Saturday. The seven
Yeah,
seed
it
in
would have
the
to be Thursday.
the seven seed in the East has to play on Saturday, so they got to give them a day
That's
off, right?
probably why they're doing. That's probably why they're doing both conference games on the same night, so that neither team has extra rest for the second one.
That's a good point. Um, so in your scenario, you're gonna have the Hornets.
Spurs. Oh, other side of the bracket.
Yeah, you're gonna have the
Hornets.
Hornets. Yeah, who are you picking there?
Wait, no, I would have Pacers Celtic. No,
No,
I would have
Pacers would be
Hornets
out.
Celtic
Yeah,
because they're not. Yes, we know how this format works.
it is
I
kind of
think
confusing, but
between Hornets and Celtics, probably I'd take the Celtics. Like, I'm gonna go back to the just guys who know how to win games thing, and like even if it's a decimated Celtics team, I just think they've got a little bit more firepower than the Hornets.
yeah,
Um, but I don't know. Like the Celtics are capable of laying an egg. What do you think?
I
If
would.
it's Wizards Hornets,
Wizards Hornets. I'm going to take the Wizards, I think, and then the Wizards
yeah.
get that 8 spot. Um, I just, I mean, I know we're always going to use this argument, but like I really just trust if the end of this game, the guys that the Wizards have to score in like important moments than the guys the Hornets have. More veterans
Oh, absolutely.
and just like not particularly tested players on the Hornets. So I'd take the Wizards, and then I'm ending up there with a Wizards. How'd that work? I guess we're ending up with the same teams. We're both ending up with Wizards and Boston.
Yeah, just in reverse orders.
Yeah.
All right, yeah.
So then I would have the
So we would
Wizards.
have the Nets.
Yeah, and I would have them playing the Sixers, which they're going to get lose to either team. But
But Wizards Nets would be fun because we get like a week of Russ versus KD storylines. Even though I'm
yeah,
pretty sure they're like fine with each other,
and
but
Russ
we would
versus
get a
Harden.
week of the media being like, "Oh,
Yeah,
Kevin Durant left Russell Westbrook."
I mean it's all the
That would be fun.
OKC guys, so that will be
Oh yeah, I
fun.
forgot Harden's in that series too. Yeah.
That'll
Western
be.
Conference Lakers.
Mhm.
We both have going through. We
I
have
think we have.
Warriors, Grizzlies.
Yeah, no, it would be Warriors Spurs, right?
Well, if we picked the Spurs to win the lower what? Yes,
Yeah,
Warriors Spurs. The team that loses the lower seeding game is out.
yeah.
Nailed it at the last prediction of the show. And figured out how the play-in tournament works.
um,
But yeah, Warriors Spurs. What do you think?
uh, Spurs probably have the better like 2 through 8 players in this game, don't they?
Yeah. Well,
Well, Wiggins.
it depends on like what Draymond we get
Yeah, what Draymond we get,
because
what
he's
Wiggins we get.
um, but like I think the bottom like X number of players the Spurs have like on the Spurs is better than that equivalent on the Warriors. Um, I think I'd take the Warriors in that one though.
Yeah. Um. Yeah, I'm kind of concerned by the fact that the Spurs have been so bad recently. Actually,
Yeah.
um, I think I'd take the Warriors against. I think the Lakers are kind of winning that game tomorrow night, no matter what. And I think I'd then take the
Yeah,
Warriors against Grizzlies or Spurs for that last spot.
I would also take them against the Grizzlies or the Spurs. I don't know. I do think we down or not we, but like the larger discussion kind of does downplay like recent form when thinking about these things because it's really just like you need to show up for one game at it.
Yeah.
Like in the playing tournament, literally one game at a time. And if you haven't been doing that for a couple weeks now, it's tough to just look at the team and be like, well, no, they'll show up for this one though.
Yeah. And I mean, Warriors also just beat the Grizzlies in a fairly important game to end the season.
Okay.
So, like, I don't know why I shouldn't use that game as maybe a deciding factor as well. If that
Yeah.
if that play-in game ends up happening, because it was literally like a battle for the eighth seed. I suppose maybe Memphis doesn't want to win that, so they don't have to play the Lakers. But I imagine it's better to be in the eighth seed so you actually have two opportunities instead of
Yeah.
and we have
Like
two straight.
ultimately win once.
Yeah,
If, and if you're the 9 seed actually, or the 7 seed too. But yeah,
yeah,
if you're the 8, you just need to win once. The 9 and 10, you need to win twice.
yeah. So yeah, no, you would want to be eight no matter what. So yeah, we'll see. Thanks everyone for
Yeah.
tuning in here. I don't really have that much else. Do you?
Cash out.
All right, game starts. The very exciting Pacers Hornets game that we really did a good job hyping up at the beginning of this starts in a half hour.
It's
So
technically a matinee game.
yeah, so make sure you get your get ready for that.
Get your popcorn. It's gonna be a show. I think.
I will. I think I'll try to watch. I'll start that game. I'll see how it's feeling.
It has potential to be just an all-time horrible game.
Yeah, it really does.
Like
Wait,
for a playoff game, it has potential to suck.
let's see though. Actually, there's a chance we have the Pacers starting lineup. We're a halftime. We're a half hour from
Oh yeah,
tip
we
off.
probably should at this point.
Okay, final injury report. Okay, makes it
How
more
many of
interesting.
like 8 are playing?
Brogdon available.
Okay, good.
Aaron Holiday available. Jeremy Lamb out.
Okay.
Sabonis available. And Edmund Sumner available.
So basically, just enough players are playing to maybe make us look really stupid.
Yes.
Like
They
they got. If you had just one of those 3 unavailable, I would still feel confident in my Hornets pick. But now it's like,
Yeah, no,
not quite.
no, now their two best players are playing, so
Yeah,
we'll see.
but like great. We probably missed this one now.
Yeah, we'll see. But
But
yeah.
in any event, thanks everybody for tuning in.
And yeah, I don't know
Dave,
when
as
we'll,
always, thank you for doing this.
thank you, Tom. I don't know when we'll be doing this next. Maybe before the playoff games this weekend. I don't know what your schedule looks like, Tom. But my week is pretty free, so I would be happy to do this again so we can actually talk about these playoff series. That
Yeah.
I'll be honest, I messaged this to you yesterday. I have like really not even processed these playoff matchups yet. I haven't thought about them yet. I've thought about Heat Bucks, and that's about it.
Yeah. It's early.
Yeah,
Like you've only really known them for a day or two at this point.
yeah. And I'm very nervous about Heat Bucks. We just got the. I don't mean to drag this out, but we did just get the schedule report earlier today.
Oh.
And on Saturday, we are going to have Brooklyn versus whoever the 7th seed is, Miami, Milwaukee,
Okay.
Dallas Clippers, and then the late game will be Portland and Denver.
Do we know our time slots already assigned?
No, but I assume I assume time slots are assigned and that whatever I'm looking at has them listed in order, but just no specific times. But I imagine if it's how this normally goes, I mean, what?
There will be like a 3:30,
Yeah, I was thinking
uh,
3:30, a 6, an 8:30, and a 10.
a 9, a 10:30.
Yeah, something like
Yeah,
that.
like an 8 and a 10. Yeah.
Um, and then on Sunday, and also I like just to say that's a, I feel like that's gonna be a really good day of basketball.
Fantastic day.
I mean, Brooklyn versus whoever the 7th seed is, maybe not, but
Unless it's
Miami,
Wizards, in which it's fun.
yeah, Miami versus the Bucks, Dallas versus the Clippers, and Portland versus Denver, back to back to back. That's gonna be a lot of fun.
It's going to be great.
And then on Sunday, we have the East 8th seed versus Philly. The Atlanta New York game in the afternoon, presumably. The West 7 versus
But
Phoenix, which might be the Lakers.
yeah,
And the West 8th
could be really
versus
good.
Utah, which also might be the Lakers, but also might be Golden State. Um, so we could potentially go into Monday with a bunch of panic mode, people talking about how the Phoenix has lost the first game to the Lakers already.
Or the
To,
Lakers lost to Phoenix, because we could also get panic mode from that,
yes, that would actually cause more panic mode. If Phoenix loses, everyone
which
will
would be
just be
shocking.
like, yeah. If Phoenix loses, everyone will just be like, yeah, this is what.
Yeah, of course they did. What?
Um, but yeah,
But
with
this
that,
is a discussion that we will get into on our playoff preview.
yes, which,
Did we both try and get the go at the same time?
mhm.
That's great. This is a show that's in sync. Tom and Dave have played together this entire season, and as you can see, we have found our rhythm as a show.
Yeah, actually, this is a good point. Again, for the two people who are watching here, thanks for sticking with us. We have done this for a full NBA season now. Obviously, we have the playoffs left, but this has been fun. We've actually done one full season, and
Yeah,
yeah,
it's kind of cool to say.
it is cool. And I'm excited for our playoff content. I don't want to get ahead of myself. There's a chance we will be going a little bit more often. Maybe if we have the
Yeah,
time,
probably.
doing twice a week
Yeah,
instead of once a week during the playoffs.
there's
I think
going to be
would,
more to react.
yeah. Also, like, just like I feel like doing once a week is you almost miss too much of the discourse.
Yep. A week could theoretically, I think, be a 4-game playoff series.
Yeah, it could.
Which, if
So
some of these go to sweep, I don't necessarily think will happen. But if some of them go to sweeps, we would just miss a series.
yeah, so yeah, I think we'll probably try to do twice a week. But yeah, stay tuned for that. Thank you everyone for watching today, and hope everyone
Bye,
has a
everybody.
good night and enjoys the game.